Welcome, and thank you for being here. This is a space where we slow down enough to notice what usually passes without explanation, where small moments are allowed to stay small, and where animals are not asked to perform meanings for us. Today's story isn't loud, and it isn't dramatic, but it's one that unfolds in living rooms, bedrooms, and quiet corners of homes every single day. It begins when two beings who are still learning the world happen to share the same space. A child sits on the floor, absorbed in nothing in particular. A cat lingers nearby, not approaching, not leaving, simply watching. No one instructs either of them what to do next, and yet something begins to form between them. There are no words exchanged, no rules announced, no expectations spoken aloud. Still, a relationship starts to take shape. This episode is about that relationship. Not about how to make it happen and not about how to manage it, but about how it naturally develops when it's allowed to move at its own pace. Cats and children do not meet through language, and they do not rely on explanations to understand one another. They learn each other quietly, through presence, timing, and restraint. Two minds still learning the world. Children and cats arrive in the world with something in common that adults often forget. They experience life first through the body, not through interpretation or reasoning. Sensation comes before explanation, and reaction comes before reflection. Loud sounds, sudden movements, and unfamiliar touch are processed immediately and honestly. There is no filter yet, no social script to soften the response. A child does not pretend to feel safe when they are not. Cat does not either. Both will withdraw when overwhelmed, both will approach when curiosity outweighs caution, and both will pause when something feels uncertain. This shared honesty creates a strange kind of compatibility. Neither expects the other to perform comfort on demand. Because neither relies on words, both rely on rhythm. They learn through repetition, through watching what happens when they move closer or farther away. They notice patterns rather than promises. Over time, this creates a mutual understanding that doesn't need to be named. It simply exists. How cats read children. Cats are often described as unpredictable, but in truth, they are deeply observant. They notice details adults overlook, especially when it comes to emotional tone. A child's movements are usually unfiltered and sincere, which makes them easier for cats to read than adults who mask intention behind politeness. There is clarity in a child's presence that cats respond to instinctively. A child sitting quietly is not trying to impress a cat. They are not performing affection or demanding engagement. This lack of expectation removes pressure from the interaction. Cats sense this immediately, and it allows them to remain nearby without feeling challenged. Proximity becomes possible without obligation. When cats retreat from children, it is rarely rejection. It is information. Cats step away when energy shifts too quickly, when excitement becomes unpredictability, or when the space no longer feels stable. Children learn from this without being told, noticing that closeness changes when movement changes. In this way, the cat teaches without instruction. How children read cats. Children often understand cats better than adults expect them to. They notice when a cat's body stiffens, when the tail changes rhythm, when ears turn slightly away. These signals are felt more than analyzed. Children respond intuitively, adjusting their behavior without needing an explanation. It's learning through consequence, not correction. A child learns that stillness invites closeness. They discover that sitting beside a cat can be more effective than reaching for one. Over time, this creates a form of empathy rooted in experience rather than rules. The child begins to recognize that other beings have boundaries that matter. This learning is quiet and personal. It doesn't require praise or reward. It grows through repeated moments of observation and adjustment. The child isn't told to respect the cat's space. They feel why it matters. That understanding stays with them far beyond childhood. The role of silence. Silence plays an important role in how cats and children connect. Without conversation filling the space, attention shifts to posture, distance, and timing. Small movements become meaningful. The room itself feels different when nothing is being demanded from it. Silence allows the relationship to breathe. In these quiet moments, nothing appears to be happening. But internally, both the child and the cat are processing information. They are learning what feels safe, what feels interesting, and what feels like too much. This learning happens below the surface without commentary. It is slow, but it is durable. This is why forced interaction often disrupts the bond. When adults step in too quickly, explaining or directing, the natural rhythm breaks. The cat retreats, and the child loses the opportunity to discover something on their own. Silence, when protected, becomes the teacher. Boundaries without conflict. Cats teach boundaries without punishment. They do not lecture and they do not negotiate. When a boundary is crossed, they simply change the distance. Children notice this immediately. Closeness becomes conditional on behavior, not through rules, but through experience. This teaches children something rare. Boundaries are not about control or rejection. They are about comfort and safety. The child learns that respecting space keeps connection possible. This lesson arrives gently, without shame. Over time, children begin to anticipate the boundary. They slow down before reaching out. They pause before moving closer. This anticipation is a sign of empathy forming naturally. It is not imposed. It is discovered. When it doesn't look like affection. One of the most misunderstood aspects of cats and children is how affection appears. Adults often expect hugging, holding, or constant play. When these don't happen, the relationship is assumed to be distant. But cats and children often bond through shared presence rather than contact. Sitting near each other is enough. A child playing quietly while a cat naps nearby is not being ignored. They are sharing space. This shared space carries trust. Neither feels the need to claim the other. Affection in this form is subtle and steady. This kind of connection is easy to miss. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't photograph well. But it is deeply meaningful. It teaches children that closeness doesn't require possession. Sometimes being near is the bond. The importance of supervision. Supervision in these relationships is often misunderstood. It is not about control and it is not about constant correction. It is about translation. Adults exist to observe energy shifts and protect both parties when the rhythm breaks down. Presence matters more than intervention. When supervision is calm, it supports learning rather than interrupting it. The child feels safe to explore, and the cat feels protected from unpredictability. Both benefit from an adult who understands when to step in and when to step back. This balance is delicate, but powerful. Supervision is most effective when it is invisible. When adults model respect rather than enforce it, children absorb it naturally. The cat remains relaxed, and the relationship continues uninterrupted. Safety becomes part of the environment, not a rule. When distance is trust. Sometimes the strongest sign of trust is distance. A cat choosing to rest nearby without touching is making a deliberate decision. They are staying within the child's world while maintaining their own boundaries. This balance is intentional. Children learn that distance does not mean disconnection. They begin to understand that others can care without constant interaction. This understanding shapes how they relate to people later in life. Not every relationship requires closeness to be meaningful. This lesson arrives quietly. No one explains it. It is felt through repeated moments of peaceful coexistence. Over time, both the cat and the child come to recognize that shared space is enough. If you've ever watched a cat and a child share a room without interacting, you may have wondered what was happening between them. Now you know that learning doesn't always look active, and connection doesn't always look affectionate. Sometimes understanding grows in silence. Sometimes no words are needed. These relationships remind us of something we often forget as adults. That presence can be enough, that boundaries can be gentle, and that trust is built through consistency rather than instruction. Cats and children don't rush this process. They let it unfold. If this quiet dynamic feels familiar in your own home, you're not alone. Many people witness these moments without naming them. You're welcome to share your experience in the comments if it feels right. Stories like these deserve space. And if you'd like to continue exploring animal behavior in this calm, reflective way, consider subscribing. Not for answers shouted loudly, but for moments observed slowly. Thank you for spending this time here. We'll meet again in another quiet corner worth noticing.